Hey y'all, how's it going? Today's video we're going to talk about the difference between a aerodynamic truck and a brick or a hood truck. For this instance, we're going to talk about this Peterbilt 579 that I jumped into versus my Kenworth W900, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons, the fuel savings, and the money saved. Is it worth it? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'll let you be the judge of it. So let's go through the pros and cons. In the Kenworth, you buy a Kenworth W900 or one of the 589s. That is the last hood trucks that was not made on by robots so much. There's a lot of handmade went into the work of those, and they're just made better versus the aerodynamic trucks. They're all just a lot of robotic assembly lines, so to speak. And the thing is about it, the older hood trucks, they was built to last. You know, you get, of course, doing rebuilds and stuff, a couple million miles out of them, or if you're Bob Spooner, pushing what, 7-8 million miles on a 60s Model Pete. But these newer trucks, they're like a big lighter versus a Zippo. They're not meant to last. Whereas a Zippo, you can just keep rebuilding it and use that thing forever. A big lighter, once it's out, it's out. So that's kind of like the reference I like to put the aerodynamic trucks versus the hood truck in category. So the pros on the W9 is that it's built to last. You know, it's like a Zippo lighter, just keep on rebuilding it, keep on pushing. The truck that I have, it's a 2014 Kenworth W900 with a Cummins in it, 18 speed. It's a 72-inch flat top. I'd say slant top. It's not a true flat top, as you know, the true flat top people will quickly let me know. So I call it a slant top. It's not a mid-roof, it's a slant top. So it wasn't a big studio. Driving that truck down the road, you know, there's enough room, it's comfortable. Once you get used to it, it's easy to drive. I get in tight spots with it. I'm a lot more comfortable in that W9 than I am this bubble truck. That being said, I love that truck. If my situation was different, I'd still be in my Kenworth, but I'm not. I'm driving this one. Comfort, not so great. It was tight. I had enough room to sleep, do all the things we need to do. I mean, it wasn't like a little Peterbilt coffin sleeper by no means. I mean, I had enough room to stand up and all that stuff, but I don't have the same room that I have in this thing. And this bubble truck is 579. It's the 80-inch Ultra Loft, and it's got so much room in here, I can almost run circles. I've lost a bunch of weight in the last year. You lose 40, 50 pounds, you get flabby, and I've always had a hard body, you know what I'm saying? I was always active, athletic, gym stuff, you know, and I don't like it. So I said, well, we're gonna start exercising. So in this truck, I've got room to do push-ups, jumping jacks, dumbbell, all the things that I didn't have in my W9. So the room is leaps and bounds way different. As far as storage, I think the storage in the W9 is better. And just because we got all this room in here don't mean I got more storage. No, it's just better storage in the W9 versus this. But I am going to put in some shelves, and I'll show you guys when I do that. I got some good ideas to make some shelves and add more valuable storage in this truck here. Now, what truck do I prefer? I prefer to be in my W9. I ain't gonna lie, I love that truck. With my situation, I'm in a bind, trucking's hard. We all know sometimes you gotta make sacrifices. So it's kind of like forced to get in this truck because it made money sense. It's more fuel economic. On an average, I'm saving 2.5 cents or 2.5 gallons more per mile. So, I mean, that savings alone is just mind-boggling to me. In my W9, I was always averaging 6.2 to 6.4. In this truck, I'm averaging 8.2 to 9.5, all loaded miles. So, I mean, we're looking at an average 2.5 miles to the gallon. If I'm really light, I'm getting 10 miles to the gallon. Now, after doing some quick math here, if you run 100,000 miles and you compare both trucks at that 2.5 miles a gallon difference, just the savings alone over a year's time is right at $16,000 on a year. 16,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. The fuel savings alone, that's why I got in this truck. It made more sense to squeeze out every penny on every load. And yeah, I mean, just it's just mind-boggling on the amount of money you save on these aerodynamic trucks. Now let's talk about the ride. The Kenworth, it rode good. Everybody knows Kenworth W900, long wheelbase. They ride pretty good. This right here, when I got in this truck, the first thing I noticed was all the hood noise, the noise in the front end. And I wouldn't say hood noise, I just know it's hood noise because I got friends with Peterbilts and I know about the hood noise. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to fix that. And it rode like crap. I hit a bump that shouldn't have done this, but I'm surprised in the first 15 minutes in this truck, I hit a bump and it jarred my steering wheel so hard, I'm surprised it didn't spring my wrist. I mean, I was like, good God, this thing, that was violent. So I was like, yeah, if I had known it rode this crappy, oh my God, I'd have fixed it months ago. I actually called Stoney up last week and I was talking to him. I said, dude, if I had known this truck drove that crappy when you got in here, I said, you know all that noise in the front end when you're just, you know, puttering around in a parking lot, making turns, the different angles of the truck turning? I was like, why didn't you tell me it was doing that? And he's like, what? It needs a lube job. I was like, nah, no, don't. And I said, then why didn't you tell me this thing rode so bad? I told him about the story about hitting a bump. And he's like, well, I don't know. I guess, you know, it rode like on a cloud when I got in it. I guess it just progressively got worse. I didn't notice. I said, well, I took care of that. And it wasn't a lube job. Kind of it was, but it wasn't. I said, these Peterbilts, I said, where the hood sits on the little bracket for bumps connected to the firewall, I said, it was dry as a bone. I said, I put a little bit of fifth wheel grease on there just to give it a little slide. I said, that's where all that noise is coming through from. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't even know. I was like, see, if you told me it was making all that noise, I would have fixed you. I'd have fixed you up. I said, but it's fixed now. I said, and as far as the tires that we took off here, they wore out Michelin's, that was probably 250,000 miles on them. I said, yeah, those are gone. I said, I put some new steers on it and I changed out the new shocks. I was like, this thing rides like a dream. I said, now granted, we still got the drive tires blown up to 120 PSI. And that's way overkill, but we're trying to squeeze out the best fuel economy on this truck, or on those tires, because they're Asian tires. I think they're called SureTrack, maybe from Taiwan. And they're 16 ply. So 16 ply calls for 120 PSI. Normally on the W9, I've always run 100 PSI on my Yokos. So I'm probably in the near future going to drop down the PSI in the drives to 110 to see if it helps, because this rear end, if I'm light, man, it's bouncy. It rides like crap on the bumps. But besides that, that's the only thing causing the thing not to drive that great. But if I'm loaded down 25,000 pounds, oh my God, it's better than my W9. It rides really, really good. And it's kind of odd getting used to that, because the way the cab shifts going around curves and stuff, it's the ultra loft, it's got that air suspension, and if you're puttering around with your windows down, or you hear one of these Peterbilts go by you and they're going pss, pss, pss. I think that's the cab leveler, maybe, just trying to push it the opposite direction of the cab leaning. I don't know. I ain't never had one of these trucks before. Well, I mean, I've had this one since December of 23, but I haven't looked into that. Anyway, I think that's what it is. It makes sense. I'm sure if you know, you're going to tell me. But guys, the difference is just night and day difference. The comfort in this one is, wait, let me back that up. The one complaint I have, and I don't have the money to change it right yet, give me a couple months, is the seat. Now, you know, Peterbilt Steve, he decks his rides out with a Sears Atlas seat. There's a reason. Man, if you sit on a Sears Atlas the first time, you're going to think, man, this feels like sitting on a bench. It kind of was. I thought the same thing. And then my buddy said, yeah, but wait, give it 8 hours of drive. Give it 10 hours of driving. And yeah, the fatigue you're not going to feel with that seat is mind-boggling. So I went ahead and bought one anyway. And I got it again. I sat on it, and I was like, man, it feels like a bench. It feels like it did, you know, when I sat in his truck, his Peterbilt back in the day. But anyway, after about a week, man, that thing, I got used to it. And after a long day of driving, the fatigue wasn't there. So I got one complaint. I've got to change out this driver's seat. But it has nothing to do with the truck. That's just a seat preference. The Sears Atlas is, they're pricey, You're gonna spend about 1,500 bucks to get one, but man, let me tell you, it's worth every red cent. So let's go back to what's the difference and is it worth it? I think at the end of the day, it's just going to be preference, because if I wasn't in the shoes I'm in right now, I would be in my W9, hands down. But when I got in this truck, like I said, I hated it. I hated it for the first 15 minutes, 30 minutes. The next couple of days, I disliked it. And then I started getting used to the way it drives, the comfort, a good working tri-pack, all the room in the truck to exercise, and let's not forget the main thing, the fuel savings. My first load I ran on this, compared to what I did in my W9, I saved $87 on one load, just in fuel savings. So at the end of the day, it's all about preference. If you want to squeeze every penny out of every load you run, Aero Truck is where it's at. And I recommend the 579 Peterbilt, because I looked at all of them before I bought this one, and this is the one that it seemed like it had better quality interior, wasn't so much plastic. I mean, even the above where the CB radio goes, you know, it's so sturdy. I reach up there and pull myself up, and it don't even crack or bend or anything. The shelves, the cabinets, the drawers, everything just seems better. That's my preference. But anyways, guys, I hope you like this video on a comparison. And maybe when I get some more numbers or some more miles down, I'll make another video and give like a 6-month comparison on savings of what I did versus what I do now with this truck. Anyways, guys, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, as I put videos out on a regular on things trucking. And guys, remember, if it don't make sense, it don't make dollars. See you, bye.